This man was given a life sentence in Australia and 17 years later a whole life order in England. Oh, hi there, stranger. This is part 54 of the England's Whole Lifers list, so viewer discretion is advised. Extra trigger warning, the victims in today's case are elderly, so if you want to skip, as always, I totally understand, but if you are staying with me, then let's get to it. So today I'm telling you about Simon Wilson, who was born in 1957 in Northamptonshire. He was only 2 years old when his family emigrated to Australia, and that's where he'd stay for the next 47 years. He would make his first appearance in court while he was still school-aged, and that was for SA on a girl under the age of 16. These offences would continue throughout his life, amounting to a staggering 77 offences and 17 court appearances in Australia. He was 27 when he is known to have started targeting older women. In July 1985, he attacked a 67-year-old woman on a quiet Melbourne street at night. He threatened the lady with a knife, and after forcing his way into her home, he ripped out her dentures and AR'd her twice. He then assaulted her by beating and left her for dead where she lay. Fortunately, that lady would survive that attack and Wilson would be sentenced to 10 years but released early. Soon after his release, Wilson would attack 55-year-old Joan Randall in a park in Queensland, but this time tragically she would not survive. Joan was left with extreme and extensive injuries, and there was no weapon, so everything that Wilson had done to Joan, he had done with his hands. He would be sentenced to life for the attack on Joan, but he served 16 years and was then released. Upon his release in January 2008, he was deported back to the country of his birth, which was, of course, England. Even though he had been there since he was 2 years old, the Australian government is strict with its deportation laws, and so he was sent home. The Metropolitan Police were informed about his return to the UK and all of his past offences. Because his offences were before 1997, he was not obligated to sign the S Offenders Register and refused to do so voluntarily. On the surface, he seemed to be cooperating with authorities, but of course he was not being monitored 24/7. He rented a room in central London under the fake name Dave Flynn and was mainly monitored by telephone, shockingly. He was only in that accommodation for a couple of months when he would commit his next attack, this time on a 71-year-old woman. On the 13th of April 2008, he followed that lady home. He had full intention of attacking this lady. He spotted her alone at a bus stop, and so he also went and sat at that bus stop. A bus did appear, but the lady decided not to get on as the bus was overcrowded. Wilson also decided not to get on that bus. The next bus came along and the lady did get on, and this time so did Wilson, and when she got off, so did he. He followed her up to her doorstep, and when she had her key in her hand to enter her home, he attacked her from behind. He was armed with a knife and told her not to make any noise or he would take her life. He punched her in the face repeatedly, even though she had been stunned speechless and had not made a sound. He asked her if she had a husband and children, to which she said yes, and then he told her if she ever wanted to see them again, to not scream or shout. She pleaded with him to leave her alone, but he used his knife to remove her clothing from her body. I can't go into any further detail about the attack, but suffice it to say that it was horrendous and would have been absolutely terrifying for this poor lady. And at some point during her ordeal, she started to scream. He punched her in the face again. He carried on using his sharp implement to remove her clothing, trying to insist that she touch him. She knew what his intentions were and did her best to fend him off. She screamed again, and this time he cut her face. She tried to fight him off by grabbing the knife. It cut her hand quite seriously, and then the attack was thankfully interrupted by two boys who had heard her screaming. Other people had also heard her cries for help and were coming to her aid. She had, as you can probably imagine, sustained some quite serious injuries and When she was found, she was crumpled in a heap on her doorstep. Side note, strangers, I couldn't read in this one, my heart. This lady, 71 years old, and she did everything she could in her power to stop this attack on her, to protect herself and her body and her dignity. And you know what? I'm so proud of her and scared for her and just heartbroken that she had to go through this. She did survive. She would end up being hospitalised for 5 days and would need ongoing medical treatment as the damage to her hand was quite severe. She would be left with restricted movement in that hand, a scarred face, and of course the psychological trauma of what she had to endure. She was scared in her own home from that point onwards, a home that she had lived in for 40 plus years, mind you. Police found him through the CCTV and arrested him. They would find a sharp in his room with blood on it that matched the DNA profile of the victim. Wilson did not deny the attack, but in a prepared statement claimed to not have much memory of it. The pre-sentencing report stated that Wilson was at a high risk of reoffending and that he posed a significant risk of serious harm to female members of the public. The sentencing judge took into account his previous crimes and convictions and said of the attack on the 71-year-old victim here in England, quote, "She was singularly fortunate to survive with her life." He was concerned at what might have happened had the attack not been interrupted by the two boys. Sorry, I said heroes wrong. If the attack hadn't have been interrupted by those two young heroes. The judge said Wilson was, quote, "exceptionally dangerous," and he sentenced him to a whole life order on the 10th of October 2008, 10 months after he arrived in the UK. And strangers, if only that was that. Because Simon Wilson appealed in April 2009 and he won his appeal. It makes me severely sick to my stomach to tell you that his whole life order was reduced to a minimum term of 10 years. And I have no idea where he is now. I just pray that the parole board did not let him out. And please, before anybody makes a rehabilitation comment, would you want this man to live next door to your nan, to your mum, to your friend, your sister, your cousin? Let's not forget that the attack in 1985, he left that lady to just pass away. He did not know she was going to survive. Shortly after his release for that, he took the life of Joan Randall. And within 4 months of being released from that life sentence and deported back to the UK, he was committing the exact same crimes. All 3 of these crimes are the same. The victim profile, the MO of the perpetrator. The only reason that he hadn't done it more than this 3 times is because he was locked away. Of course, that is my opinion. And now this is the second one on the list that has won his appeal. I am thinking I should probably go back and check them all. I am shook. 10 fucking years. Maybe I am becoming a bit cynical about the possibility of rehabilitating some people. Rest in peace to the victim of this case, Joan Randall. And I hope Simon Wilson's other victims have managed to move on and have healthy, peaceful, happy lives. As always, please let me know what you think of this one in the comments. And if you've stayed with me up until now, then thank you for watching, and I will see you for the next one.